Welcome to This Explainer. Have you ever felt entirely torn between the deep desire for perfectly ordered peace and the wild, chaotic urge to just break all the rules and create? Well, today, we are plunging ahead first into a really dark, gothic fable to unpack a profound philosophical debate. At its absolute core, this is a primal struggle over the very definition of existence itself. We're looking at an epic clash between the stagnant, enforced peace of an absolute ruler and the liberating, completely disruptive chaos of a cosmic artist we'll call the Jester. This isn't just your standard good versus evil, either. This is what the sources actually term ontological warfare. Okay, let's dive right in by stepping inside the cold, purely mechanical mind of our absolute ruler. He rules as the absolute not I. Now, in philosophical terms, this means he represents the ultimate void, a force that actively opposes all individuality and self-expression. He literally wants to crush the Jester's chaotic fire under a heavy blanket of silence. Think about this phrasing for a second. The seductive peace of the cemetery. For weary souls who are just exhausted by the agonizing burden of their own individual will, this ruler offers a terminal cure. He provides the fundamental friction, a hollow shell really, against which the Jester's infinite, wild activity has to define itself. And this completely nails the terminal dialectic at the heart of our story. We're looking at two radical extremes. On one hand, you have the ruler's mausoleum of stasis, right? This is an architecture designed to anchor the entire world in absolute silence, offering the quietude of the grave. But on the other hand, we have the Jester, absolutely pushing for the agony of becoming. He is fighting tooth and nail for a self-positing soul, an absolute ish, or a truly independent, self-defined I born from the hero's barrow. Every single strike against reality in this conflict is a high-stakes gambit for the soul's permanence. Section 1. The War for Ontological Survival and Defining the Nihilistic Divide. To really wrap our heads around this conflict, we need to define the two opposing forces driving the war. First up is the ruler's primary weapon, which is passive nihilism. As the source text defines it, passive nihilism is a stagnant surrender, born out of total spiritual weariness. It's essentially an order that tries to absolve individuals of the terrifying burden of existence by convincing them that true freedom is actually found by becoming a silent object. In the stagnant state, the individual I is treated like a malignant fever that just has to be cured through non-existence. It seeks absolute comfort in the void. In stark contrast to that, the Jester wields active nihilism. This is categorized as the forceful, deliberate deconstruction of societal structures to reveal the raw truth hiding beneath. He uses it to systematically burn away those beautiful cages of ambition. And why does he do this? To carve out the necessary space for the creative, unburdened play of the child to finally emerge. You see, active nihilism here isn't just destroying things for the fun of it. It's an incredibly vital tool. It clears away the stagnant rot to liberate creative potential and absolutely tear down that old, rigid order. Section 2. The Web of Passive Nihilism and the Tarantula Preachers. Let's look at how this passive stasis is violently enforced upon the masses. Enter the Tarantula Preachers. These are essentially the foot soldiers of passive nihilism. They skitter through the shadows, weaving these suffocating webs of stagnant peace. And they weaponize ressentiment, which is this deep, bitter envy of the strong. They use buzzwords of equality and moral guilt to ensure absolutely no soul dares to rise above the common soil. Notice the contrast here. While the Jester seeks joyous creative play, these preachers use shame to twist that play into a frantic tarantella of forced guilty conformity. They literally frame individual ambition as a crime against the communal calm, all while working towards something called the Final Sunset Protocol, a state where all motion is permanently smothered. Overseeing this entire operation is Gibishe Shutton, the Twilight Puppet King. By fiercely protecting the collective hollowness of the herd, this whole architecture of the Mausoleum of Stasis aims for a great, crushing flattening. The ultimate goal of this passive nihilism is to permanently reduce the vibrant, messy dance of life to a completely silent, gray graveyard. They want to meticulously extinguish every single spark of uniqueness. Section 3. Active Nihilism's Liberating Flame and Deconstructing Reality. The Jester utterly refuses to be a silent object, so he strikes back at the very fabric of reality, using active laughter as a strategic metaphysical weapon. It's fascinating how he systematically deconstructs this stagnant world. Look at his methods. First, his distorted scepter exhales a zero flame that just melts away social masks and golden ambitions, turning them into a shifting river of becoming. Next, he delivers 6 ritualistic strikes against the clock tower, literally knocking linear history backward into Ginnungagap, which is the primordial, formless void from Norse myth. And finally, with a chipped axe, he violently cleaves through the floorboards of our curated everyday scripts in the marketplace. He is actively peeling back the veil of Maya, the illusion of our perfectly ordered reality, to expose the terrifying, wild absurdity that actually lies beneath our strict laws. Through all this chaos, his active laughter completely shatters the heavy spirit of gravity, that immense societal pressure demanding we take our rigid, stagnant rules so incredibly seriously. But this ontological deconstruction isn't merely about destroying things just to leave rubble. It is a profound metamorphosis. It's the exact process that allows his absolute itch, his fiercely self-positing soul, to emerge from the void and manipulate the very act of being itself. Section 4. The Purposeless Inferno, a Cautionary Tale. We really must explore a terrifying dark side of this philosophy. Because removing societal structures recklessly, well, that can birth an absolute monster. This comparison highlights a super vital distinction within active nihilism. On one side, the jester uses active laughter fueled by a life-affirming will toward creative play. But on the flip side, we have the skeletal red judge. This terrifying figure is born when meaning is stripped away completely without that life-affirming will. When you deconstruct society but have absolutely no joy or creativity to replace it with, the result is a tribunal of ash. The red judge represents a sovereignty based entirely on zero, operating on this cold binary logic and mechanical condemnation. He views all existence merely as fuel for an inferno that burns without end, just purposeless destruction. It's a very stark cautionary tale within the saga. Section 5. The Descent into the Underworld and Confronting the Bloodline. To avoid becoming that very same senseless inferno, the jester has to dig much deeper into the corrupted roots of his own ancestry. This is where the war takes a truly dark turn. The jester employs what the texts call shadow necromancy. He descends into the underworld of the blood to summon the failed wills and broken oaths of his poisoned bloodline. He invokes the psychological artifacts of unfulfilled ancestral history, the wake of the Untergang, or basically the lingering, heavy ghosts of their ultimate downfall. This reveals that a corrupted rot flows right beneath the very foundations of our shared world. He physically cleaves the ground to remake the source of his being from the ashes of the Volsung curse, an ancient cycle of doom and betrayal, which happens to be the very curse that birthed both him and the absolute void. And what's incredibly fascinating here is that even in these dark fissures, the tarantulas follow him. They are desperately trying to mend the breaks and ensure that any transformation remains just a predictable, controlled reaction to the void. But the jester, he courageously confronts it anyway. Section 6. The Jester's Final Victory and the Divine Freedom to Play. This brings us to the terminal climax of our Gothic fable, where the saga persists as a violent choice for the individual. Let's break down how this actually builds to true sovereignty. The jester has to navigate beyond both the senseless inferno of the Red Judge and the frozen stasis of the Puppet King. So how does he actually win? First, he completely avoids the Trop of Malice by finding the pathos of distance, meaning the ability to look down upon the sheer absurdity of it all without an ounce of bitterness. Then he integrates his own dark Nietzschean shadow, transforming the rhythmic, horrifying grinding of the world's collapse into harmonious music. He achieves a magnificent spiritual synthesis of gold ambition and verdant entropy, completely rejecting the rusted idol's mechanical inevitability. And in doing so, he manifests as the Laughing Dragon, becoming a self-contained universe. This quote absolutely perfectly captures the essence of his victory. He becomes the child of the new dawn, juggling the stars of his own unique song while laughing at our terminal silence. He justifies existence not through rigid order or domination, but by completely embracing the inherent absurdity of a doomed universe. He performs this magnificent doomed dance right upon his own grave, fully realizing the divine freedom to play. So I leave you with this final, profound thought from our explainer today. The texts tell us that this massive choice ultimately belongs to the individual. That means us. Will you just surrender to the silent cemetery weighed down by the tarantula's guilt and the heavy spirit of gravity? Or will you ignite your own chaotic flame, forcefully deconstruct your beautiful cages, and find the raw courage to confront the very source of your being?